All right, guys. So in this video, I really want to solve fitness for building a really good physique, right? How to actually get lean, how to build lean muscle, how to get stronger on all of your lifts, and how to do all of that while actually enjoying the process, right? This is something that it's not just about getting the result and going back to the things you were currently doing. It's building better habits to get the result, habits you actually enjoy, so you can get the result and then maintain that ideally for the rest of your life, right? So that's really the goal of this training, how to actually optimize your training and nutrition to achieve a Hollywood physique and become the strongest person in every room you walk into and have that confidence so you can tackle anything that comes your way and just live a better life. So that sounds like something that's worth your time. Then take out a pen and paper or somewhere to take notes. You can put this on 1.5 speed if you need to, but please do yourself a favor and watch this full video. All right. So first things first, who is this training for, right? Just want to make sure you're in the right spot. So if what you see in the mirror every morning, if that doesn't boost your confidence levels, then you want to watch this, because one of the best things you can do for yourself is to build a physique that you like, so that every day you wake up, you look in the mirror. And if you're just like, hey, I look really good today, then that just gets you a win for the day without even trying, right? You start every day with a win and your confidence will improve, right? You wake up, see yourself in the mirror, you're looking really good, you're confident, you go to work, you got a pep to your step, you're fitting good in your clothes, right? You're able to just use that confidence to tackle other obstacles in your day. So that's really something you want to build if you don't already have that. Second, if you are just putting in the work in the gym, you're going to the gym, you're eating clean, you're doing everything right, but you're just not seeing results. And it gets discouraging, because I've been there. This is for you. If you feel like you're trying to get lean, you're torturing yourself, you're eating clean foods, you tried all the diets, right? And you still can't do it. I want to solve that too. If, let's say you do have a good physique, like you're relatively lean, you have some strength, looking good, but you're like, hey, you know what? I want to get to the next level, right? I'm looking good, but I want to look great. Then I want to show you how to do that as well. And if you're someone, you're just new to the gym, you don't really know where to start, there's a lot of misinformation, and you just want to kind of cut through the BS and just have an actual approach, then I want to do that for you as well. Goals of this training, right? What's the goal here? I want to teach you how to lose fat, how to do it consistently, how to keep it off, right? I want to show you how to actually build lean muscle without putting on body fat. Obviously, how to do that and be more confident, be comfortable in your own skin, how to get lean without crazy cardio, without all this food deprivation, actually eating foods you enjoy. And then lastly, how to actually see progress week by week, especially in the mirror, and just stop hitting plateaus, right? Stop taking one step forward, one step backwards. How can we just see progress every single week until you get to your goal? So that's really the goal of this training. Now, before we get into it, who am I, right? Maybe you're watching my video for the first time. And how did I get here? So obviously on the screen, I spent years looking like this, right? I had a lot of body fat on my frame. And as a result, I didn't have a lot of confidence. I was always shy, insecure, and I was always wearing baggy clothes and sucking in my stomach. I was always wondering, if people thought I looked fat that day, right? And I remember just feeling so uncomfortable all of the time. And I wanted to get in better shape, but I just didn't know where to start, right? I didn't have that education. I thought if I ate a cupcake and then had a salad, it would balance it out, right? No one ever taught me nutrition. So that's kind of where I started out. So a couple years later, and this is when I really got into fitness and actually trying to improve my physique and my nutrition, right? I was watching a lot of YouTube. I bought a lot of books. I was, trying different programs and a lot of trial and error. I was in the gym 5-6 days a week, sometimes every day. And I would always lift and then do a bunch of cardio after, right? So it's probably about an hour or two per day was in the gym. And with the diet, I was eating just very bland foods, very clean, everything was 100% perfect. My calories were way too low. I was way too restrictive, and I'd be staying in on weekends because I didn't want to screw up, right? If anything, this approach just helped me develop a very bad relationship with food. I actually started binge eating because, Sunday through Friday, I'd be locked in calorie deficit, but then Saturday I get so hungry that I just eat, 1,000, 2,000 calories more than I wanted to eat and just set myself back and, offset a lot of that deficit. So it felt like I was always taking one step forward, one step backwards, and it was super frustrating. And I never got the results I wanted. And I knew I needed an approach that was better, right? This was not a sustainable approach. So after years of struggling with all this, I finally decided to just invest in myself, right? I had a trainer, I had a fitness coach, and I did some other online programs. And essentially, I just got all the information that I needed, right? I found people who had the result and just had them teach me what to do so I wouldn't waste more years doing the wrong stuff. And through those opportunities, from investing in myself, I figured out that getting the transformation wasn't even that hard. I was just doing the wrong things, right? Really what it took is just figuring out what are the key drivers of body composition change, and then just finding an approach that allows you to hit those metrics and do it in a way that's actually fun, so that you enjoy the process, right? Like you want to be able to enjoy your workouts. You want to be able to enjoy your eating, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to do it long term. And a lot of getting a great physique is about actually maintaining it. And in order to do that, you got to be able to do what got you that physique. So, essentially I was able to get lean. I was able to pack on more muscle and really gain a lot of strength, right? I've gained a lot of strength using these strategies, because once you figure out how to optimize your training, the sky's the limit, honestly. And ultimately, you just become way more confident, right? When you build a good physique, your confidence improves. And that brings us to today. So today I'm an online fitness coach. I've transformed over 120 people through my transformation process. And honestly, I love this stuff, right? I love helping people transform their physique, because what it does is it builds their confidence so they can actually improve other aspects of their life, right? I've had guys build a good physique and then get their dream job, or build a good physique and then get, a girlfriend or whatever, the dream relationship. And it's just super cool to see. So now you kind of know a little bit about myself. Let's get into the training. So this is why you never had a chance, right? And what I mean by this is the fitness industry is just making it very tough to get results, because there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of conflicting stuff. And these are a couple of key ones, right? And the first is cardio. Cardio is one of the worst ways to get ripped. If you want to improve your cardiovascular health, it's amazing. Obviously, if you're an athlete, 100%. If you want to get ripped, not ideal. Because what cardio will do is it will improve your stress, your cortisol. It will improve your appetite, and it will affect your strength in the gym, right? So it's stressing you out more. It's causing potential strength loss, which leads to muscle loss, and it's making you more hungry. All of those things do not make it easy to get lean and maintain your muscle, right? So I'll get into more of, different activity that is more beneficial, but a lot of cardio is not going to help you. Second is the whole chicken, rice, vegetable diet. And the problem with this is it's very restrictive, and you're neglecting a lot of dietary fat. I find a lot of people, especially bodybuilders, are eating way too low in fat. And what that does is it just messes with your hormones. And if you're a dude, it's going to give you low testosterone. The best I've felt getting lean is when I'm having more fat in my diet. Because of having more fat, even though you're on less calories, you're still going to have healthy testosterone, healthy hormones. So you're going to feel better while you're losing weight. So definitely want to include more in your diet than just chicken, rice, and vegetables, right? And also you want to include things you enjoy. I'll get into my approach, but I like to actually fit in foods I like. So I actually enjoy the process. Third is switching it up. If you're just switching it up in the gym all the time, you're going to be stuck because you're not spending enough time progressing on the basic exercises to see results, right? You need to be really focusing on basic movements and getting stronger to actually build that muscle. Switching it up is just going to keep you stuck. Fourth is supplements. And there are some supplements that can help, but the problem is there's no point in wasting your time and energy and money on supplements when you do not have your training and nutrition dialed, right? Supplements are to supplement a good training plan, a good nutrition plan. So focus on that first. If your training nutrition is dialed, then you look into supplements. And I'll get into some examples too, but they're not going to be a game changer, right? And a lot of them you really don't even need. So don't worry so much about supplements. Fifth, and this is a big one, is just only focusing on the calories and the macros and ignoring micronutrients. And I made this mistake for a long time, because the calories and macros are obviously very important for building a good physique. The problem is when you're focusing too much on, high protein foods or packaged foods or foods that just don't have a lot of micronutrients in it, essentially you can build a good physique. You're going to have poor health, you're going to have poor hormones, and you're going to have bad energy. And you're probably going to rely on caffeine to get you through your workouts and through your day, right? So what you want to do is obviously focus on the calories and the macros, but get as much of those calories and macros from good quality, micronutrient dense foods. 6, avoiding sugar. Sugar is not the problem. Calorie surpluses are what make you fat, right? There's actually benefits to sugar if you eat it at the right time, especially, before a workout. And then lastly, too much protein. A lot of people are always telling you eat more protein, and that's definitely helpful, but there's actually a point where too much protein is actually going to hurt you, because you're cutting into the carbs and fats that you can eat with your calorie target, right? If you have a certain target of how many calories you're trying to eat and you're having just a ton of protein, then something's got to give. Either you're going to be eating low carb or you're going to be eating low fat. And personally, I like carbs and fats. So I think it's set your protein at a reasonable number and then just backfill the rest of your calories with carbs and fats. Those are some things that just wanted to point out. You definitely don't want to be doing what everyone's telling you to do with these things. Now, with that in mind, I also wanted to go over the typical journey that someone takes when they get into fitness, right? Everyone always starts because they're not happy with something. They're not confident. They want to lose fat, build muscle, or some sort of change. Now, there's two paths you can take. You can go online and find some diet. Maybe you go on social media, you find some workout routine, you apply it. You're probably going to get some results, but eventually you're going to fall off because it's not customized to you and your schedule. And oftentimes it's just way too restrictive, or it's not sustainable. So you might do it for a couple of weeks, fall off, go back to your old habits. And then next thing you know, you're back where you started, right? Second path, let's say you go to the supplement store. You buy all the supplements that they're telling you to have. Maybe you get a gym membership, you get a personal trainer, right? You're spending a bunch of money, and you definitely can get really good results with a personal trainer. But the problem is you're reliant on that. So eventually you're going to stop working with the trainer, and then you're not going to be able to continue seeing results, right? And that leaves you back when you started. So the common paths here can get you temporary results, but they're not going to get you long-term results, because what you're missing is habit change, a background of education, and accountability, right? So that gets us into the method that I'm going to talk about, how we can avoid the common path that lead to failure and get on the path that leads to success. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we get into it is this whole, beauty is pain thing, right? Like, oh, you got to grind and put in the work to get the result. And here's the thing, guys, you do not need to be eating little amounts of bland food to get lean. You don't have to be in the gym 5 to 7 days a week to build muscle. You don't have to live like a bodybuilder. Fitness doesn't have to cut into your personal life. You don't have to feel like a zombie 24/7 and feel miserable and just rely on caffeine to get through your day, right? And you do not have to lose strength to get lean. This one, I see it all the time. I was in the gym the other day and this guy is like, dude, I have to get off my cut because I was just losing so much strength and muscle. I couldn't do it. And it was disappointing because if you follow the tips I'm going to give you, you can build strength and lose fat at the same time. It's 100% possible. I've done it. My clients have done it. You just got to be doing the right things. So here we go, guys. You want to get a great physique, there's 3 things you got to solve: training, nutrition, accountability, right? 3 legs. You pull one leg out, it's going to fall. If your training nutrition is dialed, but you have no accountability, you're not going to stay consistent. If your training's dialed, you have good accountability, but your eating's off, not going to get results, right? Got to solve all 3. So let's start with training. You got to stop working out and you got to start training. What is training? Well, it's working out with intention. It's not winging your workouts. And it's realizing in order to build muscle, something very specific has to happen. You need to progressive overload. Muscle is a byproduct of strength. If you go to the gym and every week, every workout, you try to do a little bit more than last time, you're progressively trying to improve every week, your body is going to adapt and grow. Your body is stubborn. It's not going to build muscle unless it feels like it needs to. So what you want to do is really just use a strength progression to force the muscle growth, right? If you are doing 50 pounds on a lift and the next week you go up to the 55s, your body's going to recognize that as more attention than you're used to. So it's going to have a need to build more muscle to handle those heavier workloads, right? So that's really the concept here. Is it's not about what you do, it's about, are you improving over time? And the easiest way to do that is strength progression, using either your weight or your reps, right? Add more reps or add more weight. Now, the second thing, you want to prioritize the right exercises, because you can go to the gym and do, 10 exercises, but after 5 or 6 of those, you're probably not going to get much accomplished. You're going to be too fatigued to really get a lot out of the 7th, the 8th, the 9th exercise, right? So that's why I find if you just pick 5 or 6 exercises, right? The best bang for your buck exercises, and really just put all of your energy towards those, you're going to get better results. So for these, I like a lot of compound exercises that work multiple muscle groups. So for example, a incline bench press, a shoulder press, a pull up or a lat pull down. You can do dips, some sort of a row for your back. And then the legs, some sort of a squat movement. It can be single leg or both your legs at the same time. And you want to do some sort of a hip hinge, like a Romanian deadlift, right? Now, let's say you got your exercise selection dialed in. Now it's how do we actually set up our sets. And I find you really only need 2 or 3 working sets per exercise. And what I mean by working sets is sets that you're taking to or near failure, right? I think obviously warm-up sets are important. Do 1 or 2 warm-up sets. But when you start doing your working sets, you really want to train hard. Like you should be pushing close to failure, if not to failure, because that is what is going to force your body to grow, right? You want to push yourself to get to a level of strength that you've never gotten to. Push weights that you've never gotten to for a certain amount of reps that you've never gotten to, right? PRs are what cause growth. So if you're doing that, if you're training that hard, 2 or 3 sets is really all you need for an exercise. More than that, it's just extra. You're going to need to recover more if you're doing, 4 or 5 sets, right? Just stick to 2 or 3. Really push yourself on those sets. And the last thing here is you got to track your sets. You cannot be weighing your workouts, right? Please write down how much weight and reps you're doing, because that gives you the visual proof you need so that every week you can know exactly what you got to hit. You hit 50 for 7 last week. This week, let's go 50 for 8, right? The more you track, the quicker results you're going to get. And the last thing here is exercise frequency, right? Because you can do all of these things, but if you're just lifting too much, you're not going to have the recovery you need to grow. So I personally find that less is actually more. 3 or 4 lifting sessions a week is all you need for the best results. And I've actually experimented doing more. I've tried 4, 5, 6 days. But if you're training like this and you're pushing yourself, right, and you're actually, trying to hit PRs, that's a lot to recover from. Like most people are not going to be able to recover from 5+ workouts a week. And if you are, it just means you're not pushing yourself hard enough. right? If you feel like you can lift 5 times a week, it means you're not training hard enough. That's the mindset you want. Train hard enough 3 to 4 times a week so that 5 times a week just doesn't make sense. It's just too much. And if you do that, that's where you want to be. Try and improve every week, progressive overload. Get strong to build your muscle. Prioritize the best bang for your buck lifts. 2 or 3 working sets per exercise. Train near or to failure, track your sets, and then don't lift more than 3 or 4 times a week. And the thing with that too is your whole nervous system gets used when you're training for strength. And even if, let's say you hit legs yesterday, but you're doing heavy squats, your nervous system is still going to be fatigued today, even though you're hitting arms, right? It's not just your muscles, it's your nervous system. So you want to let your nervous system recover. And I find as long as you have 3 rest days per week, you will be at the best condition to get stronger every single workout, right? I'm not about having bad days and good days. I would rather work out less, but every workout is a great day. Every workout is an opportunity to get stronger, right? That is what you want to do. Now, as I mentioned before, there are a couple of lifts that I find are the best bang for your buck for an aesthetic physique, right? You want a good physique. These are the lifts you want to focus on. You want to do an incline bench. Incline bench is going to hit the upper chest, give you that more dominant look, right? You wear a collared shirt, you got the upper chest popping out, right? Next is shoulder press. And shoulder press is just important for building bigger shoulders, right? In order to build bigger shoulders, you got to shoulder press more weight. So do your shoulder presses. Third, a pull-up or a lat pull-down. And really any sort of a vertical pulling movement where you're pulling up and down, right? This is going to build your back width to give you that V taper look, right? And then for the rows, that's for back thickness. So think vertical pulling gets you a wider back. Horizontal pulling gets you a thicker back. You want to do both of those, obviously. And then lastly, you want to hit your legs, right? Some sort of a squat variation. Could be with a barbell. You can do a hack squat. You can do split squats. Doesn't matter. Pick one of them. And then a hip hinge, like a Romanian deadlift or a hip thrust, right? Something where it works with posterior chain so you can make sure you're hitting your hamstring or glutes. And that's 6 exercises right there. Another one is also dips. I really like dips as well, but definitely focus on those for sure. All right, guys. So that is training, right? Now we got to talk about nutrition because nutrition is a whole different other conversation. And what I want to give you is just the last diet that you'll ever need, right? Forget about diets. What do we actually need to accomplish and how do we do it? And the biggest rule of thumb here is that if you can't see yourself doing a nutrition approach for more than 6 months, you do not want to do it. It's a recipe for disaster. The approach that will get you your results is also the approach that is going to maintain your results. So you need to find something sustainable. Now, the only difference is that when you're getting lean, you're going to have less calories. When you have your result, you're not trying to lose more weight, then you have more calories. Obviously, more calories, more enjoyable, but the same habits that got you lean are the ones that are going to keep you lean. So that's what we want to keep in mind. Now, the first thing you need to realize is, first of all, why do people fail to get lean? Right? It's 2025. The information is out there, but if you look around, everybody has weight to lose. And really, I thought about it and it just comes down to 2 things, right? Why do people fail? It's they fail their tracking or they fail their adherence, right? Either they're not eating the calories to get lean, like they're just blatantly not hitting those numbers, or they know the numbers, but they can't even stick to it, right? Let's say you need to eat in a calorie deficit of 2,300 calories, right? That's what's going to get you lean at a good rate. If you just don't even know how many calories you're eating, you're not tracking, you have no idea, then you're not going to get lean, right? Let's say you do know you need to hit 2,300, but you just literally can't stick to 2,300, then that's an adherence problem. So really what I want to do is just teach you how to solve tracking, how to solve adherence, right? So when it comes to tracking, the first thing is actually knowing how many calories you got to eat. And this is where the energy balance comes in, because every day your body burns a certain amount of energy. Calories are energy, right? You use calories to measure the energy that you're burning. The only reason your body's going to lose weight is if you're eating less calories than you're burning, right? If you're burning 2,500 calories, but you're eating less than that, you're not eating what your body needs, what your body is going to do is going to tap into its energy reserves to get that extra energy, right? All body fat is just energy reserves, because your body is smart. If you eat more calories, more energy than you need, it's not going to waste that energy. What it's going to do is going to save it for a rainy day, right? You have a week where there's a drought or a famine. Your body wants energy so that you don't just die. So if anything, it's a survival mechanism. That's all body fat is. It's just stored energy. The only reason it was stored is because at a certain point in time, you ate more calories than you needed. So your body is like, hey, let's just take this extra calories, let's store it for later. So in order to lose the weight, burn that fat, it's just we need to tap into our energy reserves by eating in a calorie deficit. So essentially, you want to be in a calorie deficit, but not too much of a deficit, right? You want to work with your body, not against your body. So when it comes to finding the perfect deficit, what you should do is you should go online, figure out what your maintenance calories is, and then subtract about ideally 300 to 600 calories from that to find your perfect deficit, right? And just for basic numbers, let's say you're eating in a 500 calorie deficit, that is going to amount to 1 pound of fat loss per week, right? 500 times 7 days is 3,500 calories of a deficit for that week. And that is the same amount of calories that is in 1 pound of body fat. So just to recap, go online, figure out what your maintenance calories is, subtract a couple hundred from that, and do that consistently. Now, once you kind of know how many calories you got to eat, the next is actually hitting it consistently. And to do that, you want to get a calorie tracking app. I recommend MyFitnessPal because what this does is it teaches you how many calories are in the foods you typically eat. You don't have to track your food every single day, but you do have to practice tracking the foods you typically have to give yourself the nutritional awareness of how many calories are in certain foods, right? If you've never tracked anything before, then you can't look at a plate and have a guess of how many calories are in. Where if you do have some practice, you've used the apps before, then you have a better idea of ballparking your food. So really the goal with MyFitnessPal is to practice tracking the foods you typically eat so that eventually you can just start intuitive eating, right? You can look at certain plates of food, have a better sense of what you're eating. So at the end of the day, you can kind of just start ballparking your calories. Now, another strategy that can be helpful is called meal rotation, where what you can do is find a couple meals that you like, track them once, save it in the app, and then just rotate between those meals, right? If you have a couple meals that you like, you actually like them, you track them once, save them in the app, then you don't have to track your calories. You just go in the app, click the meal. At the end of the day, the numbers all match up and you can hit the calories. And the reason I like that is because it eliminates decision fatigue, right? If you don't always have to think about what to eat, you already have your couple meals you cycle between, getting lean is so much easier, right? It's funny. Personally, I find the less variety in your diet, the better results you're going to see. Because when you start to throw in all this variety and all these different types of foods, it throws your tracking off and it makes it harder to hit your calories. So if anything, just focusing on the foods you enjoy is the best way to do it, to be consistent. Now, once you have the tracking solved, it's now how do we stick to the calories? How do we adhere? And really the main thing you want to have is you want to have a daily budget mindset. And I really like the bank analogy where essentially if every day you view your calorie target as a daily budget, it's easy to make better decisions with your eating. So if you take, 2,300 calories as your target, you got to think about that as, all right, I have 2,300 calories to spend today on food. Let's spend it in the most enjoyable way without going overdrawn, right? That is the way you want to think about it. And once you can do that, then it's figuring out, all right, what are the best things we can spend our calories on? And when it comes to this, I like the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule is what allows me and my clients to stick to our calories because what it does is it says, hey, we need to get 80% of these calories from micronutrient, healthy foods, whole foods. And if we do that, you can fit in 20% of those calories from the foods you enjoy the most, right? So essentially it's saying, as long as you hit your calories, you're going to lose weight, you're going to get lean. But if you eat 80% of those calories from good quality foods, then you're going to give yourself the micronutrients you need so that you can get away with eating 20% of your calories from foods you like, right? So I personally really like this principle where you definitely want to focus more on good quality foods, but not being restrictive and cutting out the foods you like in the process. Now, when it comes to the 20% foods, really the thing is you just want to avoid bad ingredients. So let's say you want to have some cookies. Don't get a brand with 30 ingredients you can't pronounce and seed oils and preservatives. Get a brand that has actually good ingredients that isn't going to give you a stomach ache, right? That's kind of the mindset you want, right? Don't just eat a bunch of low quality, fast food, highly processed food, but just have a more healthy version of the dessert or whatever food you want, right? So that's the 80-20 rule. The next thing is actually understanding satiation and food volume, right? Because when you're trying to figure out where to spend your calories, let's say you have 300 calories left. You could have 300 calories of ice cream and hit your goals. Nothing wrong with that. However, you got to realize that 300 calories of ice cream is not nearly going to be as filling as 300 calories of potatoes or sweet potatoes, right? Having the potato, same amount of calories, but you're going to be way more full and you're probably not going to be craving more potatoes after. Where if you have the ice cream, you're not going to be as full. And if anything, the sugar is going to make you crave more ice cream, right? How many of you had scooped out one serving of ice cream and went back and had 2 more servings, right? It's understanding that some food is more filling and satiating than others. So really just think about that. And the last thing here is actually meal frequency. What matters is at the end of the day, how many calories you're eating. But what is in your control is, all right, well, are we having 2 meals, 3 meals, 4 meals? When during the day are we eating, right? The meal frequency can be a factor and it can help you. It could also hurt you. So personally, I like to eat most of my calories closer to the end of the day because I find that's when I have the most amount of hunger and cravings, especially weekends. If you're going to go out and eat a big dinner or have some drinks, you want to have some calories to spend later in the day. So for that reason, I personally like intermittent fasting. I find if I wake up and just have some water, electrolytes, and some coffee, then that helps just suppress my appetite. So I don't really need to eat for a couple hours into the day. And typically I'll have my first meal around noon. And if you have a moderate sized meal, then next thing you know, you're going into dinner and you have a lot of calories to work with and you can fit in more enjoyable foods. Now, not everyone is going to benefit from intermittent fasting. I think if anything, you just want to think about where during the day do you want to eat the most amount of food and breaking up your day to give yourself more calories during that time, right? If you like eating more earlier in the day, then maybe I would eat more earlier in the day, but then make sure you're not eating more late at night, right? It's figuring out where does it make sense for me to have my calories. And I personally find if you do intermittent fasting, being in that fasted state where there's like a switch where, if I'm fasted, the switch is off, right? Like I'm not eating, I'm not thinking about it. Where if I'm not fasting, you still have the decision of, maybe I could eat, maybe I should eat, right? That's why I like the fasting is, hey, when you're fasting, you're not eating, you're not thinking about it. It's not a possibility. Definitely recommend looking into intermittent fasting or at least just positioning your meal frequency in a way that makes sense, right? You don't need to be eating a bunch of small, clean meals. Ideally, if you can get 2 or 3 servings of protein a day, that's like optimal, but definitely do what makes more sense for you. Now, with that being said, there are some foods you want to avoid. The first is a lot of the zero sugar foods. A lot of these foods like the sugar-free energy drinks, the sugar-free sodas, all those different foods, what they do is they just replace the sugar with artificial sweeteners. And these aren't, the worst thing, but they do disrupt hormones. They can cause gut problems, right? Especially like sucralose, aspartame, maltodextrin, right? All these things in small doses, they're fine. But if you're constantly having a bunch of sugar-free foods, it's probably going to hurt your gut and it's going to mess with your hormones. So definitely stay away or limit the amount of zero sugar foods you're having. Now, the second thing is the polyunsaturated fats. And this is probably the worst thing on this list. These are the seed oils you've probably heard about because these cause a lot of damage and inflammation to your body, right? And these are the vegetable, the palm, canola, peanut, sunflower, soybean oils. And these oils are just very unnatural. You can look up how they're made. It's just really just not a natural thing you want to be eating. You want to get most of your fats from saturated fats or monounsaturated fats, actually healthier options. So definitely, I recommend cutting out seed oils altogether, but at the very least, you want to limit that. Third thing, and this kind of builds off of both of them, if you have a food that just has a laundry list of ingredients, right? It's just, you turn it over, there's just a ton of ingredients. You probably can't even pronounce half of them. That's probably something you want to stay away from. And then the last thing is all of like the protein foods, right? You've probably seen, there's a ton of protein bars. They even have like protein chips, protein muffins, protein cookies, like all this stuff. And it's literally just using all the same things, right? The only reason they have high protein or low calories is because they're putting in artificial sweeteners. They're putting in seed oils, they're putting food dyes to give it those good macros. So the less of those you have and the more like good quality protein you have, the better you're going to feel. So that is what to avoid. Now, I just want to give some examples of foods you should actually incorporate. These are the 80% foods, right? And a lot of these foods, they're just very rich in micronutrients so that essentially they're just the biggest bang for your buck foods to get in your calories, but maximize the quality of those calories too. So you can go through, look at these foods, but really this is 80% of the foods that I eat because they make you feel good. They give you energy. They boost your hormones and your testosterone. So definitely focus on a lot of these foods. And then I also want to give you some 20% foods, right? What are the foods that aren't the healthiest, but they're not bad for you? You know what I mean? Like they're the foods you crave, but as long as you get good ingredients, then they're not a problem. And I eat a lot of the Tate's cookies, the Siete cookies, very clean ingredients, organic chocolate. For ice cream, you want to get brands that don't have a ton of bad ingredients. Haagen-Dazs is the best. Magnum's pretty good. Nick's ingredients aren't, the best, but they just have ridiculous calories. Whole thing is like 300, 350 calories. So if you kind of need a treat to get you through the week and you want to kill a pint of ice cream for 300 calories, something you could definitely look into, right? And then the next thing is obviously chips, a couple of good brands I like. Protein bars, a lot of the brands are just ingredient wise are garbage. I personally like Atlas bars. Quest, some flavors are better than others. Chocolate chip cookie dough is decent. And Larabar, RX bar, Kate's Real Food are probably the best ingredient bars you can get. The only problem is they're not that high in protein. So, if you're looking for good ingredient stuff, this is definitely the ones I would go to. Now, the last thing is obviously accountability, right? let's say you dial your training, you dial nutrition. How do we actually stay accountable to this process? And the best thing you can do is do coaching, because you have someone actually holding you accountable by doing coaching, doing a coaching program. But at the very least, you want to track more stuff. Take progress pictures, track your lifts, track calories or your food to an extent, take measurements. The more visual proof you have, the more tracked data you have, the better results you're going to get. If you can get a workout partner, that's bonus, right? Because they'll actually hold you accountable to go into the gym. And the last thing that can be helpful is social media. If you're posting on your story, your progress, maybe your weigh-ins or something to hold yourself accountable to all of your followers, then it's easier to show up for yourself. So now that you kind of know a lot more about my process, I wanted to show you examples of people who have actually used this information in this process and gotten really good results. All of these people I'm going to show you, they use this exact process, but they did it with myself through my coaching program to get really good results. So first example here, we have Cal. And Cal started the program, was kind of a skinnier dude and just struggled to pack on muscle and do it in a lean way. So Cal started the program, and within a couple months, he packed on a lot of lean muscle. And his strength in the gym went up massively. And right now he's actually a lot leaner than he was, but has a lot more muscle, a lot more strength. So Cal has absolutely crushed it so far. We also have Simon. Simon saw some phenomenal results. On the left is a 12-week transformation. 12 weeks, he lost over 30 pounds. On the right is a 12-month transformation, right? This is more recent. After a year working with me, he lost over 75 pounds, right? And in the process, through both of these transformations, he has gained a lot of strength on his lifts. He's built muscle and he's lost a ton of weight. And honestly, he really isn't that restricted with his diet. I taught him how to just hit your calories, how to enjoy your diet and still be able to go out, have fun on weekends and stay on track. So Simon has absolutely crushed it and confidence is through the roof. We also have Jackson, who crushed it in literally 12 weeks. This is a 12-week transformation. And he was just struggling to lose body fat without losing muscle, right? So what I did is I brought him from working out 6 times per week down to just 3. He was working out 3 or 4 times a week, and he lost a ton of body fat and actually built muscle and got a lot stronger on his lifts. So absolutely crushed it in literally just 12 weeks. And we also have Isaac, who again, he was just struggling to put on weight. He was stagnant in his lifts in the gym, and through a couple months, he was able to pack on a bunch of muscle, get stronger on a lot of his lifts. And I think he even looks a lot leaner. So absolutely crushed it as well. So essentially the reason I wanted to show you these examples is to show you that you can do it too, right? You can be confident, you can have the physique, you can wear the clothes you want to wear, as long as you do the right thing and you commit to the right process. And really one decision can just change your life forever. You build a really good physique and you're really confident, that confidence can just allow you to achieve so much more in life. So at this point, this video is already getting pretty long. There's a lot more I want to teach you, but there's really 2 things you can do from here, right? You can take this information and you can apply it on your own, and you're probably going to see results, but there's not enough to get you the full transformation, right? You don't really have the accountability to go with it. So you might see some results, but you also might waste a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you might find yourself doing some of the wrong things, right? Because what you're missing is the actual application of that knowledge. So you can definitely go and try that out. Obviously not the best thing. What I personally recommend is the second choice, where it's actually deciding, hey, we can actually do this together. I actually will help you guys, hold you accountable, build you a custom plan to allow you to implement this whole process. Do it with me so you actually get results, right? And what this will do is it's going to save you all the time and effort, save you essentially even years of your life, and prevent you from doing the wrong things, right? You know for a fact that you're doing the right things and that every week you're moving towards your goals. So if you think you would benefit from working with me, working with my team to actually get results as quick as possible, then stick around for the rest of the video and I'll show you exactly how we can help. All right, guys. So this is the Level Up Transformation Program, right? This is essentially how to make success inevitable. If you're the type of person where you just want to solve fitness, you don't want to have to think about it, you just want the results, you want to move on with your day, this is definitely something you want to consider. So how we set this up is you want to solve training, you want to solve nutrition, you want to solve accountability, but we also want to give you a background of education. So what we're going to do is either myself or an assistant coach is going to build you your own personalized plan for the gym. And this can be anywhere between 2 to 4 lifting sessions per week. Anything more than that is up to you. If you want to throw in some cardio, mobility, extra stuff, 100% can do that. But you really only need 2 to 4 days of lifting per week. Even if you're crazy busy, we have some guys getting absolutely jacked off of 2 days a week. So that is kind of what that looks like. How this is delivered is you're going to have an app called True Coach where you can actually view your workouts and keep track of your progress. So what you're going to see your exact exercises that you need to be doing. You're going to see the weight and reps that you need to perform. You're going to see exercise tutorial videos so you know how to do the exercises. And either myself or another one of my coaches is going to actually do the progression for you, do the adjustments for you, so that every week you have visual proof that you're making progress towards your goals. And if you hit a plateau, it's not going to drag on, right? They're going to solve that right there that week so that every week you're moving forward. So that is how we solve the training. How nutrition is solved is just having a personalized nutrition protocol for you. Knowing how many calories, what your macros should be. If you want some meal plan consulting, we can do that too. Going over what meals you should have to hit those calories. Maybe you want an actual meal plan. 100% can do that as well, right? It's figuring out what is the most logical way to get you to your calories and macros so that you can actually hit them and enjoy the process. Third, for accountability, what this looks like is you're going to have one-on-one coaching calls with your coach. And on these calls, it's really just making sure you're as dialed in as possible, answering questions, solving problems, making sure you're seeing wins. Right? You're also going to have weekly check-ins. Your coach is going to check in with you every week, make sure you're, doing the things you need to be doing, answering questions, seeing results. And then the last thing is we have a private coaching group where we do regular group calls. So I will host these calls. The assistant coaches will be on them as well. And it's really an opportunity to ask questions, hear questions from like-minded people, and really just give you that weekly or bi-weekly touch point of fitness and self-improvement. So you're always in that growth mindset and surrounding yourself by a positive environment. Now, besides those 3 pillars, we're also going to get you in our school Level Up online course. And in this course, you're going to have access to all of my nutrition strategies, grocery guides, calorie tracking information, all of my training strategies, different strategies for cutting, lean bulking, supplements, mobility, really all the information I felt would make sense and help you with your journey. I wanted to give this all away to you as well. Now, that is a lot of what the program consists of. There is a guarantee if you're like, hey, this sounds great, but I want to make sure this works for you. What I'm going to do, if you do the workouts, you make an effort to do what your coach is telling you, and you do not get results, we will give you a 100% money back guarantee, right? In order for you to get this, like I said, you have to actually make an effort. If you sign up and you don't do your workouts, you don't check in with your coach, you don't make an effort to hit your calories, then it doesn't make sense to get the refund. But if you're actually trying and you're not getting results, then that means it's on us. And if that's the case, we will give you 100% of your investment back. So really no risk, guys, no risk. Either you do the program, you get results, and that's amazing, or you do the program and don't get results and get your money back. So really trying to make this as risk-free. I'm 100% confident this works. I've never had someone do the program, do the workouts, and not get results. So really pumped to potentially get the opportunity to help you as well. Now, before we wrap up, I just want to answer some common questions, right? If you're interested in this program, maybe you have a couple questions. And a lot of the time it's, hey, you know what? I'm just busy. I don't know if I'll have the time for this. And the answer to this question is all you need to do is just get 2 workouts a week to see results. If you can fit in at least 2 workouts a week into your schedule, you can make this happen. And even if that's a challenge, I recommend every Sunday, look at your calendar and just try and carve out some time where you can work out, right? 3 or 4 workouts a week is definitely gonna get you the best results. But if you can just find time for 2 workouts a week, even if it's just weekends, like I guarantee you can make this work. If you've never been to a gym, that's not a problem, because we're going to give you a pretty intro routine. We're going to attach form videos, and we're just going to make it as simple as possible, just so you can start building consistency, building habits to eventually get to a more advanced level. Let's say you don't have gym access. Maybe you got a couple of dumbbells in your basement, right? You can definitely make that work too. I spend a lot of time doing a lot of calisthenics and bodyweight exercises. The only thing I'd recommend is getting a resistance band, which you can get very cheap on Amazon, but you definitely do not need gym access to make this work. So there you have it, guys. That's the process. That's the program. If you feel like this is something you want to get yourself into, you want to put yourself in a position to succeed, then here we go. You can make a positive choice for yourself, right? So if you made it this far, then I can already tell you're the type of person that you probably just want to get this handled so you can move on with your life and stop wasting the mental capital on this any longer, right? Like, it's a very relieving thing to just solve fitness. You don't have to think about it. If you know for a fact you're getting results, you can focus your energy and your time on other things, more important things, your work, relationships, all that stuff, right? So if that's the case and you want to make this work, you want to consider this program or at least get some more information, what I want you to do is just click the link below, book a call with myself, right? This is myself who's on the call, and just talk with me about the program, and I'll see if you're a good fit. And if it works out, amazing. If not, at least you got some more information, right? So definitely recommend booking a call, and I hope to chat with you soon.